MercytheMad here, and today I've got a video for you explaining how to make infinite money playing as Eltharion with the High Elves. As you can see here, I've currently got 3,766,000 gold, and it's turn 42 in the campaign. At this particular stage, I'm currently making about 400,000 gold per turn. And that's not even the limit. Like, this method is infinite as far as I can tell. The only limit would be when you make so much money that it just breaks the game completely. This is not your normal entrepreneur spam. As you can see, I don't have any entrepreneurs. This is not just the normal use of indoctrination. Eltharion has a unique faction ability where he can capture enemy lords using the Warden's Cage ability, put them into Athel Tamara, and they'll appear in here, and then he can do an indoctrinate ability on them, and then he'll take a portion of their faction's income every turn. Just the normal use of indoctrinate as a mechanic can be quite overpowered, but what mbob has done here was really pushed indoctrinate to the maximum of what it can do, and yeah, it's kind of crazy. Now, I just want to make clear, I didn't actually come up with this strategy. A very clever man in the Total War Warhammer community by the name of mbob came up with this particular strat, and what we're looking at right now is actually his save game that he sent me so that I could show off this strategy for you guys. Before we get started, I just wanted to state that this is an exploit. This is obviously not how Creative Assembly intended us to play Eltharion, but I think it's quite a fun exploit. It's completely optional, up to you. Don't use it if you think it's going to ruin the fun of your game. But I think it does give you a lot of options that you otherwise wouldn't have. That infinite money sort of opens a lot of doors for you in your game and lets you do some crazy stuff that you wouldn't normally be able to do in a campaign. So if you're interested in trying it out, just thought I'll I'll show it off here and you can decide whether you want to use it or not. Okay, so the exploit. Indoctrinate, in the description, says it steals 5% of the character's faction's treasury per turn. So however much money that faction's got that they have not spent, you get 5% of that for each character that you've indoctrinated. Now, steals makes it sound like it takes it away from them, but in fact it doesn't. It just gives you 5% of their treasury, but does not remove 5% from their treasury, so their money doesn't go down. Now, anyone who remembers playing the Eastern Roman Empire in Total War Attila will know that if you take a certain percentage profit from a base amount and you keep adding that profit back to the base amount, you get an exponential growth. But how do you add money to the treasury of the faction that you're at war with? And how do you stop them spending their money so that you can let their treasury build up? Let's just go back a few turns in this campaign and I'll show you what mbob has been doing all this time. Watch my Beat Tyrion into a Confederation video guide. That gives you a pretty good idea of the standard kind of start of how to take over Toryavres in the first few turns. It looks like that's pretty much what mbob has done here. He's attacked the starting army, indoctrinated the Greenskin Lord, of course, then the next turn taken Trilinia, indoctrinated another lord, then come down south, taken over Lesai, probably indoctrinated another Greenskin Lord, and then finally either started sacking or just occupied immediately the Shrine of Loek, and of course indoctrinated another Greenskin Lord there. Although if he occupied it, then that would destroy the faction, so he wouldn't get any more indoctrinate money after that. But even so, getting that extra little bit of indoctrinate money on the way down would help him out. Then he's gone and declared war on Safari. Now, when he's declared war on Safari, he's moved up, taking each of their settlements and fighting each battle involving a lord manually so that he could get indoctrinate on each of them until he managed to indoctrinate 5 different lords. So you have to get 5 different individual lords with different names, indoctrinate them all, and then instead of getting 5% of their treasury per turn, you're getting 5 times 5, or 25% of their total treasury per turn. Now, once mbob gets to Torfinu, Safari's last remaining settlement, he's wiped out everything else, all of their other forces and all their other settlements. Then he wants to siege that final settlement and not occupy it or sack it, just keep it permanently locked in a state of siege. That means that Safari, the faction, can no longer recruit any units, they can no longer recruit any lords, they can't build any buildings, they can't spend any money. They could theoretically spend money through diplomacy by giving gifts away to other factions, but it doesn't seem like they do that. So essentially what happens now is that their money just keeps going up. Because the faction gets their king's purse, for the player it's about 2,500 gold that you get for free regardless of any other income. Their income is their treasury is constantly going up by at least that 2,500 gold. I think maybe it's even higher for the NPC players. And you're, of course, getting 25% of their total treasury, which is, maybe 20, 30,000 gold, and it's going up by 2,500 each turn. Now, 2,500 gold isn't really that much, though, and 25% of 2,500 gold, which is how much your profit per turn is going to increase by each turn, is not very, very much either. And this is the part where it gets totally broken. So what you do in order to increase Safari's treasury, and therefore increase your 25% share of that every turn, is to give all of your money to Safari. So normally, when you're at war with a faction, you can make peace with them and offer them money, but then if you cancel the peace agreement, then the money disappears as well. But if you offer peace, and then as part of the peace deal you also offer a military alliance, then to sweeten the deal, you can give them, say, 500,000 gold. And then if you cancel the peace agreement offer first, it will automatically get rid of the military alliance and the peace, but it'll leave the money there. So it's a bit of a bug in the game.
This is our sworn.
So you do that, and now you've raised their treasury by like 500,000 gold, which means that when you get your 25% cut of their treasury next turn, it's going to be 25% of whatever they had before, plus an additional 25% of that 500,000 that you just gave them. And remember, their treasury doesn't go down by the amount that they give you. So all that money still stays in their treasury and stacks up. And when you get your 500 or 400,000 gold next turn, you give it back to them again, their treasury just keeps growing bigger and bigger, and the amount that they give you each turn keeps getting bigger and bigger. Obviously, Thingamabob didn't start off with 500,000 gold. He probably started off with 5 or 10,000 gold, and then he gifted that money to them. And the next turn, he got back a bit more than he'd originally gotten from them last turn, and he gave that money back and got more, and it built up and built up. And he's actually done a little graph to sort of show how the curve kind of works. I'll just show Thingamabob's worksheet here because it's actually pretty impressive. If you want to work stuff out, like, this is how you do it. You get serious, you take notes, you figure out what's going on. So you can see he's got the list of lords that he's indoctrinated. He's written down their names so that he could take a note of how many there were. It looks like he's indoctrinated each of them twice to see if that made any difference. I think he ended up coming to the conclusion that it doesn't. You can only indoctrinate each of them once. And he also said to me that 5 was the most that he was able to get. He couldn't get them to spawn any other lords. They just kept cycling through those same 5. Also, yeah, so he's noted down, how much money he expected to get, what he estimates their treasury should be at that point, given that the amount of money that he's given them each turn. Noted down how much he's gifted, how many lords that he had indoctrinated at that time. So yeah, ignore the column in the brackets. It's just the 4 or 5. So at the start, yeah, I'm not sure why the bump there is in the lower part of the graph there, but you can see it's an exponential curve. Like it grows and grows and grows, and the curve's getting more and more vertical. So the amount of profit, indoctrinate profit per turn, goes up, like it gets faster and faster until it goes kind of ballistic. Just in case you're having a bit of trouble visualizing how that works, I'll just flick through a couple of turns of doing it so you can see exactly how it works. Obviously, when you first start out, you're at the bottom of that exponential curve, so it's a lot flatter, so you won't see it going up as fast. It might only be going up by a couple of hundred gold, a few hundred gold each turn, but the amount that you get you get from them, from their Indoctrinate money at the start of each turn, will go up. Every time you gift that money back to them, the next turn will be more. Then you gift all that to them, the next turn will be more. You can see in just a few turns, we went from making 600 and something thousand gold per turn to 1 million, over 1 million gold per turn. The other great thing about this is that even though you're essentially keeping the entire faction as your slave thralls, paying you all this money every turn, they'll love you for it. Because every time you give them that large sum of money that exceeds the amount that a large gift would be, it counts as a large gift. It gives you plus 40 reputation to the faction. In fact, if you ever grow tired of sucking the blood from their entire race like a macro vampire, you can probably just confederate them whenever you want, because their faction strength will be so low and they'll love you so much and you'll be so strong relative to them. So yeah, I hope your imagination is alive with all the possibilities of things that you can do with infinite money, all the different races that you can try out, enslaving and turning into blood banks for Eltharion the money vampire. Yeah, it's a pretty disgusting exploit. It's pretty delicious, as Legend would say. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. As I said, it is very exploity. If you don't like it, don't use it. I'm kind of thinking of it as like kind of like the Matrix. You know how the machines like put all the humans into those things to keep them safe. That's Eltharion's version of he's keeping all the elves safe by keeping them all enslaved in their cities. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, enjoy, guys. That's all I got. Thanks.